We had warning on this flood, unlike 2022, which is a flash flood, but I think everybody missed the mark because it's supposed to crest at 26 feet and it gets 30.5 feet. That's the largest flood we've had since 1984. And it was, where the 2022 flood was just in one area, this encompasses the entire county. Not only was it 64 degrees last night, we're getting ready to expect 3 to 7 inches of snow. It could be at any time.
We are grateful for the local, the state, the national, and even the crews coming in from other places that are helping our people find safety and find shelter during what is continuing to be one of the most challenging weather events that we have faced. We are still in the search and rescue phase of this emergency. We still have multiple different missions that are underway. There are still people that are in harm's way. And it's very important today that we continue to remind folks not to drive through standing water, not to drive around barricades. They are there for a reason. The help's needed because we can now confirm 11 fatalities from this event. That number may still grow. That's an addition of 2 since last night. Those include an adult male in Hardin County, an adult male in Floyd County. All of Kentucky still has standing water in different areas. You'll hear in a minute over 300 roads still impacted and closed. So everyone, be careful. Many people going back to work today, picking up their kids from school. Just because those are in and just because the community is up and active doesn't mean every part of it and every road is safe. So this ought to tell you how hard we were hit and also the amount of time it's going to take for the water to go down. In some places that might be most of this
forced captivity, daily hormone injections, human eggs harvested in a factory-like setting. This is not a dystopian sci-fi nightmare. It's a harrowing reality for 3 Thai women who were rescued from a human egg farm in Georgia in January 2025. They were found and taken to safety after a survivor called for help. The survivor had been allowed to leave after pulling enough money to pay off a ransom to a Chinese gang that had been holding her captive. At a press conference in Thailand, the survivor detailed how she and other women were lured by Chinese traffickers. It started with a Facebook job ad promising high-paying surrogacy work for childless couples. Everything was covered: travel, expenses, and documentation. What seemed like a life-changing opportunity turned into a living nightmare. After the women arrived in Georgia, 2 Chinese gangsters took them to a secured compound, where they found at least 100 other Thai women. There was no surrogacy program. Instead, they were forcibly injected with hormones to stimulate egg production. They were sedated, subjected to monthly egg extractions, and treated as human incubators. The women, whose passports were confiscated by their captors, were told by the gangsters that they were considered illegal in Georgia and that they would be arrested if they left. Once one of the survivors returned to Thailand, she sounded the alarm, which set the rescue operation in motion. Led by Thai NGO Pavina Foundation for Women and Children, the operation involves a collaborative effort between Interpol, Thai, and Georgian authorities. On January 30, 3 women were rescued and brought back to Thailand. However, officials believe many more Thai women remain trapped in similar conditions in Georgia. Arrests are being made as a major crackdown on Georgia's egg farms continues. This case has exposed a disturbing trend in the fertility industry, wherein traffickers exploit vulnerable women to meet the growing demand for human eggs. According to the Pavina Foundation, at least 257 Thai women fell victim to human traffickers in 2024, with 204 trafficked abroad. Authorities say the operation was run by a gang linked to illegal surrogacy and human trafficking, with ties to underground fertility clinics across multiple countries. Illegally harvested eggs are sold to desperate couples seeking alternative fertility treatments. Diana Thomas, CEO of the World Egg and Sperm Bank, told the Sun news outlet that the market is flooded with illegally harvested eggs, often taken from women in developing countries. She said customers are deceived into believing the eggs come from well-educated, middle-class donors. Georgia has no specific laws regulating surrogacy, and surrogacy contracts are considered legal. The government has, however, announced plans to introduce stricter regulations. But with demand for donor eggs rising and regulations failing to halt the trafficking, one question remains: how many other impoverished women are being exploited for their eggs?
Alejandra is an undocumented farm worker in California who does not want to show her face or share her last name for fear of deportation. She says she was on her way to work earlier this year when agents from Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, started rounding up undocumented migrants around the city of Bakersfield.
That was on Tuesday when they started the raids. And on Wednesday, we didn't go out because we were scared. We heard and saw the whole day that ICE was being very active. They were in the key places where all the farm workers have to go through, where the citrus groves are. So the next day, I didn't go to work because I was scared.
United Farm Workers Union President Teresa Romero says 2 of their members were detained.
The farm workers that were deported have been here working for 15, 20 years. They don't even have a parking ticket. They were stopped in the street. It's not that they had a warrant against a specific person. They were just stopped by unmarked vehicles going home from work.
While the Trump administration says these first migrant roundups will focus on suspected criminals, U.S. border czar Tom Homan says it is only the beginning.
As the aperture opens up beyond criminals, you're going to see more arrests. I made it clear, if you're in the country illegally, you're not off the table.
In Bakersfield, resident James Miller says deportations may create a shortage of field workers here, but immigration agents must enforce the law.
I think it's misleading when it was interpreted that they were going to raid the schools. So they have a job to do, and they should do it. Is it going to impact us? Probably so.
Another resident, J.P. Avalos, says the economic impact here may be significant.
We'll see 2-3 months time when the Latinos and you guys, when this happens and they kick them out, let's see where your food costs are and what you guys got to do to get that, you know?
Neighboring Ventura County has also seen immigration enforcement raids under the new administration. More than 80% of field harvesters here are undocumented migrants, according to estimates by the nonprofit Farm Bureau of Ventura County. Maureen McGuire is the Bureau's CEO.
If we have mass deportation and we lose the labor force that harvests, there will be a lower supply of food for those individual commodities that are affected, and then the grocery stores will be in competition for who gets that limited resource. That will drive the prices up.
Alejandra says she went back to work picking carrots a few days after the roundups, but is keeping herself and her U.S.-born son out of public places in hopes of avoiding immigration agents. Genia Dulo, VOA News, Bakersfield, California.
To some breaking news now. ABC News learning Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency has requested access to the IRS data system. It contains the personal tax information for millions of Americans. The system used by the IRS to review taxes, issue notices to taxpayers, and also update records. Several sources tell ABC News access to the tightly controlled data has not been granted as of this weekend. The request, though, causing alarm bells to go off within the government and among privacy experts who say access to this type of information can be extraordinarily dangerous.
Staying on with the United States, the bird flu epidemic has greatly impacted America's poultry industry, forcing the U.S. to reportedly turn to Turkey for egg imports. In fact, according to reports, the U.S. government has signed a preliminary deal to bring in 15,000 tons of eggs by June from Turkey, in an attempt to ease a worsening egg shortage that has left grocery store shelves empty and prices soaring across the U.S. For over 3 years now, the highly contagious H5N1 virus has ravaged American farms. At least 158 million birds, including chickens, turkeys, hens, have been culled to contain the spread. And according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the situation further escalated this winter, with 18 million birds euthanized in December and another 23 million in January. Eggs, once a breakfast staple taken for granted in American households, are reportedly now a scarce commodity. Supermarkets across the country are reportedly rationing purchases, and some major retail chains have imposed stricter measures, capping sales of eggs at 3 cartons per shopper. The impact extends beyond grocery stores, by the way. According to reports, popular breakfast chains in America are struggling to keep up with the rising costs and have introduced surcharges to their menus for eggs. In fact, in just 1 year, egg prices have shot up reportedly nearly 65% across the U.S. In December, a dozen eggs cost an average of around $4, more than double of what it was in August 2023. And by January, the price had climbed to nearly $5 per dozen eggs, an increase of nearly $1 in just 1 month's time. The surge in egg prices is reportedly driving up overall food costs across the U.S. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has warned that the worst may be yet to come. Officials predict egg prices could spike another 20% in 2025. Meanwhile, the virus's impact on human health is also raising alarms. Since the start of 2024, 69 human cases have been recorded in America, including the death of a 65-year-old Louisiana man who contracted the virus after exposure to infected animals. In Nevada, dairy cows have tested positive for a strain of avian flu that has caused severe illness in human beings. And even domesticated cats have tested positive. The discoveries reportedly sparked fears that the virus could mutate further, increasing the risk of a broader pandemic and making it even more dangerous for human beings. With no immediate solution in sight, the U.S. faces a dual crisis: soaring food prices and an unpredictable public health threat.
أولا هذا الاعتداء الإسرائيلي ليس الأول من قبل العدو الإسرائيلي الذي ينتهك الاتفاق والهدنة، وعلى الدولة اللبنانية وحكومة نواف إسلام أن تعمل على ردع العدوان والدفاع عن أرضها وشعبها.
يعني هلا صار في رعب رجع للشعب من أول وجديد، الشعب راح يرجع يعيش بكركبة من أول وجديد، ما حيرجع زي ما كان عايش، حنرجع زي ما أيام كلها بالحرب مش أكتر، وإحنا السنة كمان طلاب شهادة، عداك عن هيدا كمان عنا ضغط وعنا درس كتير، فهيدا الأمور كلها بتأثر على الطالب بشكل عام.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is calling Iran the single greatest source of instability in the Middle East.
Behind every terrorist group, behind every act of violence, behind every destabilizing activity, behind everything that threatens peace and stability for the millions of people who call this region home, is Iran. And by Iran, I mean the Ayatollahs. By Iran, I mean its regime. A regime who, by the way, its people don't support. The people of Iran are victims of that regime. And there can never be a nuclear Iran. A nuclear Iran that could then hold itself immune from pressure and from action. That can never happen. The president's been clear about that as well.
After meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem, Rubio says both Israel and the U.S. are determined to derail Iran's nuclear ambitions. Commenting on the future of Gaza, Netanyahu said both countries share a common strategy. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is on his first trip to the Middle East, which is currently dealing with several conflicts, including the 15-month-old war in Gaza.
And let's now shift our focus to the Taiwan Strait. Will Taiwan become an independent country with Donald Trump's help? You know why that question is being raised? A critical phrase from the U.S. State Department's official Taiwan fact sheet is now gone. The phrase explicitly stated, quote, "We do not support Taiwan independence," unquote. What would that mean, and how has China reacted? No points for guessing. Beijing is furious. In fact, China's foreign ministry has slammed the move, calling it a violation of international law and a dangerous provocation. Listen in.
The revision of the fact sheet on U.S.-Taiwan relations by the U.S. State Department, which seriously regressed its position on Taiwan-related issues, seriously violated the One China principle and sent a serious wrong signal to the Taiwan independence, separatist forces. This is another example of the U.S. side's stubborn adherence to the wrong policy of using Taiwan to contain China. We urge the U.S. side to correct its mistakes immediately. Stop condoning and supporting Taiwan independence and avoid causing further serious damage to Sino-US relations and peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait.
In fact, the Chinese Communist Party sees Taiwan as an inseparable part of its territory, and the Chinese President Xi Jinping has vowed to unify Taiwan with the mainland, even by force if necessary. And over the past 1 year, Chinese warplanes have been making their presence increasingly felt around the Taiwan Strait. And according to a top U.S. military commander in the Indo-Pacific, U.S. Navy Admiral Samuel Paparo, Chinese military exercises near Taiwan are no longer just routine drills. Rather, they are a rehearsal for war. Meanwhile, Taiwan has welcomed the U.S. move. According to reports, Taiwan's foreign minister called it a positive step in strengthening ties between Washington and Taipei. Taiwan has its own government, military and economy, yet it remains locked out of major international organizations due to Beijing's influence. And according to experts, the latest U.S. move could give Taiwan a glimmer of hope that perhaps Washington under Trump will take a stronger stance in its favor. Over the past few years, America has ramped up military support for Taiwan. Billions of dollars worth of weapons, advanced missile systems, fighter jets have either been approved or already delivered. And China has repeatedly warned that any declaration of independence from Taiwan would lead to war. The U.S. has never made an explicit commitment to defend Taiwan militarily, maintaining ambiguity in a way in this regard. But could the latest development change all of this? In fact, just last week, 2 U.S. Navy ships sailed through the Taiwan Strait, which prompted an angry rebuke from China. You see, during his first term, Donald Trump took a hardline approach against China. He approved major arms sales to Taiwan, sent high-level U.S. officials to Taipei, and even took a call from Taiwan's president, breaking decades of diplomatic precedent. The question is, will Trump go further in his second term as president? Will he openly support Taiwan's independence? Will he abandon strategic ambiguity and make a direct security pledge to Taipei? And more importantly, how will Beijing respond? For now, every move matters and is being watched very closely.
For your signature now.
Okay. President Donald Trump on February the 11th signed an executive order for 25% tariffs on imports of steel and aluminum. South Korea exports millions of tons of steel to the U.S. yearly and enjoyed an exemption on tariffs likely not to be renewed. Experts worry where and when Trump's tariff spree will end.
Product-specific tariffs, such as applied to the steel and aluminum, possibly other industries like automobiles or pharmaceutical, that the Korean government have to take carefully look at what's happening, and we have to wait and see what kind of card they will put on the table, because I don't think the Trump trade war is over yet. We don't know what really coming next.
While other countries have sought better terms through personal contacts with the U.S. leader, South Korea's current leadership vacuum with President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment places Seoul at a disadvantage. And the fact that South Korea is a major ally seems to mean little to the U.S. president. With Donald Trump back in the White House, there's uncertainty over a number of agreements between Seoul and Washington. Trump had previously threatened to significantly increase the amount that South Korea pays for the deployment of U.S. troops here. And on trade, Trump may seek to again renegotiate the Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement. The Korea-U.S. FTA took years to negotiate and involves 95% of goods. Still, South Korea's trade surplus has ballooned to more than $50 billion a year. However, taxing that trade will cost U.S. consumers.
It will have, adverse effect on the U.S. domestic market. So, well, I guess the Korea and other countries will suffer a little bit, but eventually maybe American consumers suffer more because the inflation, a lot of things, prices will go up.
President Trump says the tariffs will cause prices to go down, placing the emphasis on the American jobs he says they'll create. During President Trump's first term, South Korea made large investments in American-based factories. Acting South Korean President Choi Sang-mok is looking at non-tariff barriers and diversifying trading partners and strategizing countermeasures to Trump's tariffs. Still, local South Korean production remains exposed.
Since the automobile industry has suppliers, it's not just the automobile companies that will collapse. And if the suppliers collapse as well, for South Korea's economy, employment and growth will be significantly affected.
President Trump on Friday said he would announce further tariffs on automobiles in April. Frank Smith, TRT World, Seoul.
Happening today, we have people here in town planning to protest some of the actions and policies of the Trump administration. News 3's Fidel Morena Meza joins us live right there on the fabulous Las Vegas Strip with details of today's rally. And Fidel, this is obviously a visual way to get attention for what they are protesting.
Yeah, that's right, Kim, and things looking a little quiet this morning right outside the Bellagio fountains now, but that could change later this afternoon as this protest is part of the 50 Protest, 50 States, One movement. Now, this is all to rally against some of the policies that have been enacted by President Trump. We want to show you a video of several of these protests that have broken out across the Las Vegas Valley. Now, this one that's taking place here today is not necessarily new. We've seen them since the president took office. Organizers of today's event say that today's rally is standing against the Trump administration's policies. In an email to News 3, organizers of the event said in part, quote, "On Monday, February 17th, we will join all 50 states in an unprecedented unified rally fighting against tyranny and the inhumane treatment of our people and our Constitution by the Trump administration." Now, that protest is set to begin at 3 this afternoon outside of the Bellagio fountains, which are right behind me. We'll, of course, have more coverage on that on later editions of News 3, Kim. And also pretty symbolic as this is taking place on President's Day. Back to you.
Thank you for that, Fidel.
Україна не братиме, Україна про це нічого не знала, а Україна розцінює будь-які переговори про Україну без України як які не мають результату, і ми не можемо визнавати будь-які речі або будь-які домовленості про нас без нас. І ми не будемо такі домовленості визнавати.
We spoke long and hard. Steve Witkoff was with him for a very extended period, like about 3 hours. I think he wants to stop fighting. They have a big, powerful machine, you understand that. And they defeated Hitler and they defeated Napoleon. You know, they've been fighting a long time. They've done it before. And but I think he'd like to. I think he would like to stop fighting.
Do you think he wants the whole of Ukraine, or just what do you think he wants?
No, I think he wants to stop. That was my question to him, because if he's going to go on, that would have been a big problem for us, and that would have caused me a big problem because you just can't let that happen. I think he wants to end it, and they want to end it fast. Both of them, and Zelensky wants to end it too.
Sir, when do you think that could actually happen? When do you think the fighting can stop?
Well, we're working to get it done. I mean, you know, it's too bad it started. It would have been a lot easier to end it before it started, right? But it started because we had an incompetent president that he didn't know what he was doing. That should have never started. That war was so easy to stop. Remember this, that under Bush, they took a lot. Under Obama, they took a lot. Under Biden, they're trying to take the whole thing. And under Trump, they took nothing. Nothing was gone. Not even a little bit. So it's too bad. It's really too bad. A lot of people are dead right now that should be alive, and a lot of cities are destroyed that can never come back like they were. Those beautiful golden domes and all of the multicolored domes that were 1,000 years old, they're all laying in, you know, just shattered. So it's very sad. They ruined the culture.
They're beginning phase 2 of the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. What's going on there? Have you been briefed on the latest relating to that?
Yeah, I have been briefed. I told Bibi, you do whatever you want because, my statement was they got to come back. Now, the reason I made that statement because they said they weren't going to deliver, they were not going to deliver the people that they said they were going to deliver, that they agreed to deliver. And they did agree to do that, but they broke that agreement. When I made the statement, they delivered everybody plus an American. Now, the good news is they look like they're in pretty good shape because the people from the week before didn't look like they were in good shape. They looked like Holocaust survivors, frankly. Horrible. Whatever happened to them was horrible. But that'll be up to Israel what the next step is in consultation with me.
What were they supposed to use these weapons for that you've now allowed to be shipped? Given the fact that there's this ceasefire supposed to be in effect, why ship those big bombs now?
Peace through strength. You understand that, right? It's called peace through strength. They contracted for those weapons a long time ago in the Biden administration, and then Biden wouldn't deliver the weapons. But I look at it differently. I say peace through strength. They were sitting there. Nobody knew what to do with them. They bought them. But I believe in that very strongly.
So do you have an update on your... The European Union is talking about banning food imports from the U.S., kind of along the lines of your reciprocal
Why is
tariffs.
that? Why?
The reciprocal tariffs, they don't like the
That's
pesticides.
all right. I don't mind. Let them do it. Let them do it. They're just hurting themselves if they do that. I can't imagine it, but it doesn't matter. We're having reciprocal tariffs. Whatever they charge, we charge. Very simple. If a certain country like India, which is very high tariff, if they charge us X dollars, we charge them X dollars. It's all right. It's a fair thing to do. Even the media said it was fair. And it's going to be very good for the United States.
On your timing of your meeting with Putin in Saudi Arabia?
No, with no time set, but it could be very soon.
Like this month?
Well, it'll be soon. We'll see what happens. But they're meeting right now, and that's more. I mean, this should have been done 4 years ago, 3 years ago, before it started. But it should have been done immediately after it started, as opposed to now, 3 years later.
Sir, egg prices have reached an all-time high. What's your administration? Egg prices have reached an all-time high.
It was before I ever got here, it was at an all-time. This didn't start. Remember, I've been here for 3 weeks. And when you saw the inflation numbers, I've been here for 3 weeks. I have had nothing to do with inflation. This was caused by Biden. I had 4 years of virtually no inflation. So I'm just taking over. But I'll tell you what, this country has made more progress in the last 3 weeks than it's made in the last 4 years, and we're respected again as a country. Thank you very much.
Let's now move on to some quick news flash coming in from Russia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says he saw no reason for Europeans to take part in Ukraine truce talks. He accuses Europe of wanting to, quote, continue the war in Ukraine. Speaking at a press conference in Moscow, the Russian Foreign Minister says, and I quote him, I don't know what they would do at the negotiating table. If they are going to sit at the negotiating table with the aim of continuing the war, then why invite them there? The statement comes even as Lavrov is set to hold talks with Marco Rubio-led U.S. team in Riyadh on Tuesday.
Today, Secretary Rubio and I had a very productive discussion with our staffs on a number of issues. None of them are more important than Iran. Israel and America stand shoulder to shoulder in countering the threat of Iran. We agreed that the Ayatollahs must not have nuclear weapons. And we also agreed that Iran's aggression in the region has to be rolled back.